He must know that I'm in the dog fight with him. I'm next to him side by side. We have a bond that's unbreakable. I'm gonna show you the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. Transparency is everything. When I learn, you learn. I've been watching a lot of your content, and I will say, first, let's get this applause in first. Right. I've been watching a lot of your content, and it's always something to learn, but you be hitting on topics that go beyond pet training. You talk about topics as far as like the breed type, the dogs, Malinois, Cane Corsos, and you said a lot of relevant things. And I think those are the items that we should speak on, among other things, because I think nowadays we're seeing these breeds come into these 101 Dalmatian effects.
Yep.
We're seeing it with the Malinois, right? We've seen it with the Cane Corsos, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, I want you to tell the people who you are.
Oh, man. You know what? I'm a dog lover. I love dogs. I love helping dogs. I love helping people who love dogs. And I believe in giving back to the community and to people. You know, I found this as a total passion. I was doing something totally different when I fell into this. And my veterinarian convinced me to be a dog trainer. And so I was working with shelter dogs at the time, and I kept working with shelter dogs. And that's where I started. That's where I cut my teeth. That's where I still go back to. I learn in the shelter, and I give back to the shelter as much as I possibly can, because those dogs are there through no fault of their own. And I found the sports, you know, IGP is a passion of mine. I love it. It used to be Schutzen. It used to be IPO. I did IPO when I did it with my Mal. I did Mondio Ring. I've done AKC obedience, and I've worked with protection dogs, you know, not PSA or stuff like that. Real protection dogs, like personal protection dogs. But the real passion for me is shelter dogs. That's what I love. That's what I'll always love, is helping them.
How long you been into actually like dog training for private parties, or even for a corporation or executive training? How long you been actually into the training aspect?
Full time for just about 20 years.
That's all?
That's it. Yeah. It's really not that long, right? For old guys like us. I mean, you know, everybody always, I haven't met anybody who hasn't been doing it for at least 10 to 20 years. It seems like right when you start, you say, I've been doing it for 10 years. So I can legitimately, I mean, I started learning about dog training in the 90s when I had a karate school, and I had a friend of mine who's a magician, and he was training a Doberman, a really nice Doberman back then. And I really enjoyed watching him. He was old Keeler style trainer, real good trainer, good guy. And he taught it to me. And I thought, well, that's kind of fun, because I love learning stuff, even if I'm not going to use it. And I never, ever, ever thought I'd use it. And then in 2003, I rescued a Shar-Pei who was aggressive. And I just started training him, made nothing of it, kept training him, helped people here and there. And then in 2007, 2008, it hit full swing when I was just in the shelters all the time, working, doing evaluations and videos on getting dogs adopted. And from there, it's just been full time.
That's pretty good. I never, you know, when we talk about shelters, I've always kind of like thought about shelters as far as mixed breeds, you know, just mutts, just dogs, pit bulls and chihuahuas. But what I'm realizing now, that there are times where you go into there, when people do go, they're getting like purebred Huskies and purebred Rottweilers and Malinois and Cane Corsos. And these dogs on the average market with papers is running $3,000-$4,000, and they're going right to the shelter. What do you think is the reason why these type of dogs, or any type of purebred dogs, are going to the shelter now?
Well, it's really run a cycle. And what we talked about just before you started live is that what you called, and what I've called, the 101 Dalmatian effect. Right. So people see a movie, or they see something that's kind of cool, and they have to have it. It happened with German Shepherds, it's happened with Rottweilers, it's happened with Dobermans. The current dog is the Malinois. You see, I probably pulled, I mean, just on my videos alone, at least a dozen plus Malinois, really nice Malinois out of the shelter. Um, I think, sadly, people are not educated. And I think social media is further deteriorating like a moral quality in people because everybody wants to do what they see on Instagram or on
Yeah.
TikTok, and they see a 60-second reel. And I just gave a big presentation over the weekend in Palm Springs about this. And I talked about the relationship dynamic that's important. But people don't see that. When they see a 60-second Instagram reel of a Malinois doing something really cool, they want that dog. But the problem is, that's a 60-second reel. Now you still got 23 hours and 59 minutes you got to live with that dog. And they don't realize that. These dogs are not oftentimes easy to live with if they're high drive, if they're overly intense, if they have dominance issues. And most people who see those reels aren't aware of the work that we do
Yeah.
as dog lovers and trainers that get them to that level. So I mean, a lot of it, and I think it's going to get worse as we see more and more of this, fake stuff on the social media. It really hurts the dogs, and Malinois and pit bulls. I mean, they're actually quite similar in personality. They're very intense dogs. They're very, relatively thin nerve dogs, so they're likely to snap at the wrong time. And if you don't know how to handle them, or how to structure their lives, or how to box them in, how to get them to do what you want them to do and give them a fulfilling, happy life, they're a pain in the neck to live with. And then they end up, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with a 50, 60-pound dog that's, a very intense dog? You're going to dump it at the shelter because, there's nothing else you can do with it. You can't keep it. You can't give it to your neighbor.
That's interesting because what I'm noticing now with just speaking on the Malinois,
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that even like soccer moms and middle-aged people and just all different types of walks of life are buying these dogs, and then they wonder why these dogs are spinning around in a crate or just running amok in their backyard. Even with the Dolby situation, I'm gonna speak on that. Is that they're getting it because, and I think it's more of an American thing where we Americans are more visual with a dog versus what the dog specifically, what it was designed to do, the
Mm-hmm.
utility aspect. They're looking at the aesthetics.
You're right.
Looks. They're not looking at, this dog is genetically predisposed to like work until his heart can't work anymore. And they're thinking that a lot of these dogs are like Cocker Spaniels. They just want to be lap dogs. And that is not the case. And unfortunately, like with me, well, fortunate for me and unfortunate for me is that when people ask me for dogs or speak on Doberman puppies, I said, now, these dogs are specifically designed to go to an active home. We highly recommend, not require, but we highly recommend that the dog get into some kind of sport work, whether it's rally work. So your dog agreed too, see?
He said that's right.
Right. Rally work, dock diving,
Mm-hmm.
luring, protection sports, IGPs, Mondio, ring sport, something active with the dog. Because what's going to happen is the dog going to tear up your backyard. He's going to tear up your furniture. He's going to create a nuisance. And more than likely, those particular people who buy those dogs don't know how to handle those dogs.
100%. But see, so that's one of my big issues I have. I always talk about the breeders. An ethical breeder is not going to give a dog or sell a dog to an unethical person. And I'm not saying unethical in the line of unscrupulous, but I'm saying unable to fulfill that dog's life. I remember when I got my first Malinois, I had so many questions that my breeder asked me. And now when I got my second Malinois, I had just as many questions. She wanted to know where I live. What's the dog going to do? Now she knew my experience. Obviously, she knows who I am. And she was very happy that I was going to take one of her dogs. But it was still this question. And the number one thing that was on her contract was, if you cannot keep this dog for life, I want the dog back. I want first rights to take that dog back. If people started doing that and started breeding, and that was the only dogs that were available, how great would that be? Shelters be empty of those dogs. But people are turning a quick buck. They're selling dogs on street corners. They're selling them on Craigslist, and they don't care
Wow.
who the dogs go to. Like that dog is a living, sentient creature that needs fulfillment and it needs love. But just as much as love, it needs structure. It needs something to do. My dog's on the treadmill for a mile every single morning. We take a walk, a nice walk, and then we goes on the treadmill for a mile. Then we start training. Then we start our day with structured training, obedience, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. That leads me to the other question. I'm going to ask you this one. You've been asked this before, but not here. Do strong-willed dogs make strong-willed owners?
Well, they either make them strong-willed or they just completely destroy them. A strong-willed dog takes a certain temperament to own. I've got one. He's sitting at my feet right now. This dog, you can ask anyone who's been around this dog. This dog loves the fight. He loves the fight more than any dog I've ever seen. And I've handled thousands of dogs. I've trained hundreds of dogs, but thousands. I've never seen a dog who is, one, this intense, and two, this determined and powerful. Corrections mean next to nothing to this dog. The only correction that means anything to him is my personal correction, because he understands I'm his owner, I'm his father, I'm his master. The dog must understand that. Now, a lot of our training, back in the day, we used compulsion on dogs to teach them certain lessons, right? There's nothing wrong with compulsion when it's fair. But when it's punitive, when you're constantly having, if you need to correct a dog 3 times for doing something wrong, either he hasn't understood the correction or you haven't made it clear to him. And we see too much of that. We're seeing real swings as we see in society, politically, in everything. We're seeing huge swings. So the swing right now in dog training is we're seeing purely positive, where we can't even say no to a dog, right? And on the other side, we use people. Every dog gets an e-collar. I'm just going to teach them that way. Just like children, I taught karate to kids for 10 years. I believe that a correction is fair on a dog, but the dog should know what he's getting corrected for. He should have been taught the lesson first. You don't teach a dog to sit by putting him on a prong collar and yanking up and forcing the sit.
Right.
You certainly will get a sit out of your dog, but it's not the kind of sit that I would want anybody to see my dog doing. I want my dog to sit like, yes, I'm sitting, not like, oh, I better sit. I'm going to get my ass kicked.
That says a lot, because my thing is that when it comes to corrections, I've always tried to make corrections right when the mistake or the behavior that I want to be corrected right then.
Mm-hmm.
But making immediate, sometimes I made a correction on a dog 4 years ago. This is a dog that I rescued. He was one of the dogs that was in the litter that I had created 6 years prior. And I told the guy, I'm going to take him back. I said, before you put him up for adoption or whatever, always give me the first rights of refusal.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Bo. And I knew he had a little screw loose, but maybe it was because the people weren't strong handlers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I brought him back. He was only about 1.5 years old. And we started doing correction. Me and Al Benuelos, we started doing corrections on the field.
Good trainer.
Shout out to Al.
Yep.
And I will put him in a down, walk 7 feet away, turn around, and then he's come right back up to me. I was like, wait a minute. So I had to make correction right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I put him back to the same position where he broke us down. I said, couché. Of course, I'm speaking French to him, couché.
Mm-hmm.
And then I walked 7 feet away again. And he's coming back again. So I was like, okay, let me do some more correction. Put him back there. And as I was doing correcting him to go into the down position, he stiffened up like this. And then he attacked me. So my thing is, what do you suggest when people have dogs that are that strong-willed, that are willing to bite the hand that feeds them at any given time, no matter how much pressure we put on the dog, because that was the first time. That wasn't the last time he bit me.
Your question is, what would I do with a dog like that?
What would you do? What would you say would need to be corrected? Do we use a different type of correction tool, like a slip lead?
Well, what were you using?
A prong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've taken more prong. I'm an ambassador for Herm Springer, so I'm going to make full disclosure. I'm an ambassador. I love Herm Springer products. I love the prong collar. I've used it for the entirety of the time I've been training dogs. I've never not advocated for the prong collar. However, in recent years, in the last, I would say 7, 8 years, we've been breeding dogs that have much sharper or thinner nerves. So a dog that has thinner nerves, they're more likely to be startled or surprised. They can't handle pressure as well, especially sharp pressure, e-collar, prong collar pressure. And then they will bounce out of it. They'll just snap and either bite or completely, spin out of control.
Right.
I've seen that. There was a Dutch Shepherd I worked not too long ago. It was at the end of a prong collar and it was just going ballistic, trying to kill my dog, which we were walking in a dog park. And I said to the guy, I said, hey, if I can make a quick video of with your dog, I'll give you a free, hour training session. He said, yeah, I'll do it for sure. And I knew what I needed to do. I said, let me just take the prong collar off the dog, because the prong collar was just flipping the dog out. It was just a pressure that he couldn't understand. Doberman's a relatively thin nerve compared to something like a German Shepherd. German Shepherds have really solid, thicker nerves. Not all of them, but most of them as a breed specifically. So I personally think that the prong collar is more designed for that dog or dog with more solid nerves. Now, my Malinois can take a prong collar correction nicely, but if it becomes harder, like in other words, if the pressure needs to be dialed up a little bit, like if he's pulling at the end of it and I was going to pop him back, it would kind of spin him out of control more, and I'd be better off with a slip lead on him. So, I mean, again, it just depends on the situation. It depends on the circumstance. It depends how the dog was trained. One of the most common things that I've seen in my years, and I always try to test people with this when they say my dog's trained, I said, perfect. Put the dog on a down and walk away from the dog. And 9 out of 10 dogs will always come back because most pet dogs, and you rescued this dog back from somebody who you didn't know what he was doing. Every pet dog trainer, I can categorically say every pet dog trainer I've ever seen, and I say, show me some stuff you do. They'll tell the dog, sit, good boy, sit. They walk away and they say, come. So the dog is always trained that the follow-up behavior to sit, stay, is come. So they learn that as a behavior. Now to tell them they're not supposed to do that, of course they're going to do it. There's never a circumstance in a pet dog person's life where they would say sit to the dog and not recall them. But in IGP, we need a long down under distractions. In the 1, 2, and the 3, the dog needs to sit there and watch the entire routine. In AKC, same thing. The dog needs to hold a position. You walk away from them. So as a sport trainer, we understand that we need to be able to teach our dog to sit, stay, and wait for us to release them or call them back. So when we train that, obviously, we have to have the dog sit, and we 9 out of 10 times return to the dog, or throw a treat behind him, or throw a treat next to him, or something, or throw a toy next to him. But it's never proofed in pet dog training, and a lot of times we have this mix. We have pet dog trainers trying to help sport dog trainers trying to step into the police dog world, police dog trainers trying to go into this. And there are really great trainers in every one of those fields. And I know a lot of them in each of those fields. And the best of the best stay in their own field. Like they don't go trying to step into the other lane and say, okay, you know what, I can help you with this because I've got this and this experience.
That's a good point. Now, I remember you were speaking about your boy, how your boy loved to fight. He loves to fight. So my question is, and this is off the top of my head because I learned this term last year with Al. Al told me that my dog has a lot of fight drive. I didn't equate fight drive with prey drive, but can you explain to the audience out there who don't understand the difference between fight drive and prey drive in a dog?
Well, yeah, it's a really great question. So it's often misinterpreted because they think the biting is all in the same. Well, the biting is the actual fight drive, right? The actual, think about it this way. Let's say you have two people who are going to fight, but the first guy is like calling you names and running away and running away. The prey aspect is me chasing him and having the tenacity to keep chasing him until I catch him. Now, the fight drive is going to come in when I start smacking the guy around. So with a dog, the prey drive is I'm teasing him with the toy, I'm teasing him with the sleeve, I'm teasing him, I'm teasing him. And then the fight drive kicks in when he actually connects and bites onto the sleeve or the suit or the toy. Will he stay in that fight? Because a dog with great prey drive may not stay in the fight. And a dog with great fight drive may not have the tenacity to keep going until he gets to the bite.
Yeah, I've noticed like there's a hell of a difference. And again, a lot of times when we're watching dog training, when Al trains the dog, or when I'm training with a guy or a group, for us owners, because I'm not a dog trainer, I've just been around dog training for a long time, and I've handled my own dogs in competition, but I'm still learning how to read a dog. I'm still learning the behaviors of dogs, and especially different dogs that are not even mine. And when I saw the fight that Cisco had in him, I was like, well, I like that attitude. But in the sport world, that can be a disadvantage because they forget that it's just a game.
It can and can't be. I mean, think about, for example, like a boxer. Think about an MMA fighter or a jiu-jitsu fighter. I think when this is a problem in the sport is when it's not managed, right? We want to teach dogs to turn it on and to turn it off. And I'm working with somebody right now who's really opening my eyes to a lot of stuff. And the idea, what most of us do, and I've done it, I'm very guilty of it, is we turn dogs on before we teach them how to turn off, right? So what do? We see 8-week-old puppies in the thing, and people are shaking bottles in front of them, doing agitation work, getting them gripping, biting on sleeves, and all that stuff. In Germany, where I got Shmuley from, they don't. A lot of the good breeders don't do that, right? We know what we bred. I know the genetics of this dog. I don't need to bring that out at 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. That is all kind of just left, and the best trainers teach these dogs to be calm. Same thing in the hunting world. In England, when they're teaching gun dogs, the first thing they do with the puppy is they bring it out to the field, they watch the hunting, they watch the retrieves, and they just learn to sit there. In America, the first thing hunters do, and I'm not criticizing the hunting world, I'm just saying it's a different approach, is they're getting pigeons, they're getting force fetched, they're getting all this stuff. And now later, the dog is so excited and so happy about what's going to happen. And I went through with my dog, Shmuley. He's so excited about the blind, about the sleeve, that while he's healing, he's going, I get to go. This is going to be so much fun. This is going to be so much fun. So you're actually making it really fun for the dog, but you're not giving the dog a fair chance to learn how to say, if I'm calm, I get the bite. But that's what we all want. We want the dog that can turn that switch on and turn it off, because we want him, like right now, he's laying there sound asleep, on the floor. That's what I think dogs need to learn personally for the first few years of their life.
That is damn, because I have a dog named Titus, and he's from Russia. Good lineage, good temperament. Everything is clear in his hand. We do a lot of civil work with him. But for the first time in my life, I trained him. Well, we had him being trained was all about building prey drive, building fight drive, bite, 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 go, go, go. And we're looking at 11 months old. The dog can't even walk on a leash. And now that we're trying to get him dialed in for IGP, it's extra work now for him to do the OB, because we didn't build no foundation with obedience in the beginning. So I think that makes a valid point to teach a dog how to be in an environment where he has to be obedient and knows that when it's time to play, it's time to play. And
when it's time not to play, it's time not to play, right?
Right.
Those are two different sides we need to look at. And it's something that I think what happens a lot, and I don't think I don't think they're doing it to mess up a dog, but they think the common thought with protection work is we want to teach a puppy early on that he has the confidence to scare away a bigger guy, right? We want to imprint that in the dog's mind. So we spend so much time doing that that later, when it comes time to correct the dog has learned his whole life, I can push through this, push through this, push through this. I can get the bigger guy to go away by barking. And if it doesn't work by barking, by lunging. If it doesn't work by lunging, then by biting. So it it's a mixed signal for the dog. And I think the reason we do it and the reason I did it and the reason I put so much focus on things, because I always wanted my dogs by 2 years to be perfect. Because we think, well, the dog's only going to live to be 12, 14 years old. So we want to get the most out of it. We want to get the dog ready. By the time the dog's 3, we want to be competing. But in theory, you could wait till the dog is 4 years old. A 4 to 8-year-old window for a dog competing, and especially in IGP, is a really solid window because the dog is very collected in his thoughts. He's mature in his thoughts, and he can do things. The worst thing to do is to put a dog that doesn't have a good level of maturity onto a competition field. It's not fair to the dog.
Let me ask you this: when it comes to that, makes sense, man. And you know. What clicks and what sells is really obedience, right? But what gets the algorithms popping is when the dog is wilding out, just wilding out, right? And I do believe in building drive, but there's a positive way to do that, right? Because if the dog got the genetics, he gonna have the bite work ain't gonna be a problem.
Never.
Right. So my question is to you. And this has been a very controversial question. Is it easier for a sport dog to be a personal protection dog or vice versa? Can a personal protection dog easily acclimate into a sport dog?
I don't think a personal protection dog can acclimate to being a sport dog easily, because a true personal protection dog needs to oftentimes make decisions on their own, right? They need to work independently of the person, just like a police dog. So remember, we're always taking sport dogs and converting them to personal protection dogs. We're always taking sport dogs and converting them to police dogs and military dogs. A great person to talk to about this, you should have on your show, is Steve Stoops, who is the person who started the special operations dogs for the Delta team dogs, the Navy SEAL dogs, and all that. He always loves to find an IGP dog or Schutzhund dog, as he calls them, and converts them to becoming protection dogs, military dogs. I think once the dog has become more civil, and we take those little, let's call them the training wheels off and let them be free and let them work, it's harder to get that back out of them and put them into a field, because the field work is it's very contrived. Whether of all of them, the IGP is the most contrived. It's been the same healing pattern for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, or whatever. It's the same escape bite. It's the same blind search. It's the exact same tracking. I mean, nothing has really changed. So it's really a ballet. It's a dance. We know every move that dog is going to do. And I always say, if a dog is really good, he could go out and do the healing pattern on his own. He could stand on his own, sit on his own, down on his own, recall. But protection dogs, personal protection dogs, have to do different things. And I had a client who had a personal protection dog, and he said, I don't think this dog's going to bite. And I said, well, let's try him out. And I took my friend Eric Shearer. We went to his house. And I said, it's going to be, this is a funny story. If you want to tell it, it's kind of,
yeah, tell it. You're going to make me laugh now.
Oh, it's going to make you laugh. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was a Malinois. He got it from the Netherlands, I believe. Spent way too much money on it, by the way. But he got this dog, and he brought it to the park. I worked the dog. Nice dog. The dog was trained only to out on an e-collar, and when they banned the e-collar, they had to get rid of the dog. So it went through a broker. The broker made a fortune on the dog. Dog wasn't worth as much money, but that's another story. So I go to his house, and I brought Eric with me, and I said, okay, well, there's a certain pattern of things I like to look at when I'm training a personal protection dog, and that comes from my background in being a bodyguard. So I said, the first thing I'm going to do is leave the dog in the house Eric's wearing a suit. I said, I'm going to have Eric go in and steal something from your house, something really expensive, right? And let's see what the dog does. I didn't give him any indication what I was looking for, but I knew what I was looking for. And the guy, Eric, went in, dog was in the house. He walked in, he walked out with his like $10,000 or $20,000 alligator briefcase, brought it out, handed it to him. The dog didn't bark. The dog didn't move. The dog didn't bite him. The dog didn't follow him out of the house. And the guy says, well, that's a really crappy dog. I said, no, that's a really good dog, because it's not worth biting somebody when they're coming in to steal something, because the dog's a protection dog. He's not a law enforcement. I mean, not a theft protection dog. He's a protection dog for a person, right? And he said, well, what's he going to do when somebody's going to go to hurt me? I said, well, that's our second test. And right. So now he'd never seen the dog in real drive. So he's got his little collar. And I said, okay, let's just sit and let's go in the kitchen and talk for a little bit. Now I had planned that Eric was going to bust the door open and grab this guy and just tackle him to the ground. And this is why you would get this dog, a home invasion robbery, right?
Right.
So Eric comes in, and man, it was out of a movie. He comes in, he goes, hey, mother, boom, yeah, you, grabs the guy, tackles him to the ground. This dog busted the door open, grabbed Eric, and was shaking him and grabbing him and wouldn't let him go. I mean, it's intense on him. One of the best takedowns I've seen a dog do. And so the guy gets up and he's yelling, out, out, out. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now he's hitting the dog on the e-collar. Well, the dog's not going to let go, right? So he looks at me, he goes, what do I do? What do I do? I said, your dog is doing exactly what he should be doing right now. This is a good dog. He didn't bother somebody when he just showed up, and, you know, the guys, people are going to say, well, he should be protecting his materials. No, what if his housekeeper comes in, right? What if the housekeeper's friend is coming in and she's moving stuff around, the dog thinks, oh, and he nails her. That's stupid. But he went after Eric so hard on this invasion thing, he couldn't get the dog off. And I said, well, first of all, let the dog enjoy the fight for a while, because if he's not going to get to do this again for a while until somebody breaks in your house. And if you make it adversive to him, you know, or aversive to him to be, or adversarial, you're going to ruin the dog.
Right.
And so I said, the only way you're going to get this off is going to be to 10 and 2 him off. You know, you're not going to e-collar this dog off of a live bite, or basically a live bite, or at least a bite that seems live, even though he's wearing a suit. But the adrenaline is really cooking like it hasn't cooked on this dog probably since he left the Netherlands. So we taught him how to 10 and 2 the dog off, how to do a force out, and all that. But the interesting is, he didn't know what he got when he bought this dog. And he got a really nice dog. Paid too much for it, but got a really nice dog.
The dog did exactly what he was supposed to do.
What he was bred to do. And what you said is absolutely what the reason you understand this, because you breed dogs and you breed good dogs. The reason dogs do stuff is because it's in their DNA. When the sperm hits the egg, all the decisions have been made, right? You can't mask that. Just like when the sperm hits the egg and the dog is a nerve bag, you can maybe cover it a little bit, a good trainer can, but we know underneath the dog's a nerve bag.
And that leads to me to add on to that statement. I remember when somebody was asking me, said, I told him, I was on Zeke's documentary. He did another documentary on his Roddy, because I got one Roddy, but 3 Dobies. And he was asking me, he's like, how do you feel about skittish dogs? I said, I won't do it. I said, if they haven't been mistreated or beaten or anything traumatic happened to them, they're just skittish, period. I can't do that, because no matter what we do, that nervousness or that skittishness is going to resurface at some point. We can go to the Grove and the kids are playing too rough and they kick the ball somewhere closely related. All of a sudden, my dog may go into, and now that's a rehabilitation process all over again. So I want to ask you this. Why? Because you said it twice for 2 different individuals, yours and the guy you just told me, they got Malinois. Why the Malinois of all breeds? All breeds, come on now.
The first dog that I had as an adult was a Shar-Pei. The second dog I had was a long-coated Shar-Pei. But then I started getting interested in the sports, like Schutzhund. I wanted to get into Schutzhund, and I knew it's not going to happen with them. Like, I don't like when people do sports with dogs that the dog is not designed to do. So I wanted to do Schutzhund. Back then it was called Schutzhund. And I said, well, I'll get a German Shepherd. I'm German. Why not get a German Shepherd? And I started doing the research on the health issues with German Shepherds. And I didn't want a heartbreak. So I kept thinking, thought about a Doberman. My friend had a Doberman. I wasn't that big on the Doberman. I liked something that looked more like a German Shepherd. And then I kind of stumbled on it. This is going back, 20 plus years, 23 years. And I was like, God, what's that? A Malinois. Like, you hadn't seen those dogs around back then. And I was like, I like the way they look. I like their conformation. I like everything about them. And I started researching it. And the first Malinois that I bought was a showline Malinois. It was a herding and showline dog, Goofy. And it took me 2 years to get him because the breeder didn't have a puppy. And I looked at a couple of different breeders around, well-known people. And I was kind of a snob. I wanted a good-looking dog. And I waited and I got Goofy. Goofy was a great-looking dog. And there's something. It's kind of, I always say this to people. Like, they said, how'd you pick your puppy? And I said, the same way I picked my wife. When I saw her, I knew she was the one. And I don't know what it was. I think it was a spiritual thing. When I saw this puppy, those 12 puppies, he was sitting all by himself off to the side, not paying attention to the other puppies. I said, that's going to be him. I was in Germany for 3 days. Every day I went back, it became more clear. That was me. That was for me.
It's crazy. It's almost love at first sight. So I must have had almost about 30, 40 wives then, if that's the case.
No, not if you didn't marry all of them.
No. I'm noticing, and I would say like Dr. Fauci be saying, there's an uptick. I notice an uptick in these Mali Dutch mix, these Mali Pit Bull mix. Let's expound on that, because to me, those are mixed. I don't know the premise behind mixing them. Most of the people that are buying them are trainers, are buying them from other trainers. Why do you think they're doing the mix of those two dogs now? What is the point behind it?
I'll tell you what, I would bet my life savings on the idea, and it's happening in agility too. My wife does agility. They do these sport mixes. So what the thought process is, and I had Kenny Licklider on my show, my podcast, and he talked about the Mali herd, which is the German Shepherd and the Malinois. And the idea is we're going to take the best traits of the German Shepherd and the best traits of the Malinois, and we're going to put them together. And you've got a really good Malinois at the club. He's got a really good temperament. He's got this and that, but he's kind of missing the fight drive. But I got a Malinois who's got this and that, but he's got good fight drive. So if we mix them together, we're going to get the best dog. The problem, what most people don't understand, is you're not always going to get the best. Like, think about it. If you put like a brilliant scientist and a brilliant athlete together, do you think you're going to get good looking, smart, athletic people? No, you might get the worst of it. The way breeding works, and I've talked to so many people about this, and in particular breeders, they go back generation after generation after generation and see where these things are proven. The problem is when you have people at clubs, they go, oh, I like this dog. Oh, yeah, I like your dog. Oh, let's try it together. And look, out of a litter of 8, you're probably going to get 1 or 2 good puppies, but you're also going to get a couple bad ones. The problem isn't who takes the good dogs. The problem is who takes the bad dogs, because those are the dogs who are the liability. When you have people who are fighting pits and they breed them and they try to get another good fighter, but they end up with 2 or 3 nerve bags, then what are they going to do? They're going to put them at the shelter. Now, they still have the genetics of wanting to fight, but they don't know how to control the fight, right? And with a Malinois, you got the genetics of wanting to have human aggression. Now, pits don't have human aggression, right? It's usually very unlikely for a pit to have human aggression. But the Malis do, because the Malinois, the Dobermans, the Rottweilers, the German Shepherds have all been taught to be civil dogs. It's in their genetics. Now, when you have that propensity in a dog, and the dog is a nerve bag, like what you said, yeah, take the dog to the Grove, take the dog down to 3rd Street Promenade, and see what he does when a little kid comes flailing his arms, running up to him, and he takes a piece out of him. Well, there's Eric Shear made a comment. I just saw Eric made a comment on there.
Who?
Bull herder trendy now. Eric Shear. I don't know. It's up on my thing on Facebook. Yeah, we were just talking about you, Eric.
Yeah. Eric, you're going to be on the show next time.
Get him on. He's a good guest.
Let me ask you this. So I noticed you was talking about a certain type of dogs, and before we got on live, we talked about the trendiness of or maybe we did when we was on live. We were talking about the trendy aspect of the Cane Corso, and I'm not too much privy to the Cane Corso. I do know I interviewed Mike Satelli Jr. Last week. His father is the one that brought it to the United States many years ago. But I noticed that they are not the same dog then. Even with the photos, they're not the same dogs then as they are now. Temperament's different. They're more milder, but they're bigger. You spoke about Sentry dogs. Explain what a Sentry dog is.
A Sentry dog is a protection dog. And if you think about it, the Mastiffs were the original Sentry dogs. The Corsos, any of they call them the Mollisers, right? The Mollisers were the original Sentry dogs. They were protection dogs, and they were obviously a good choice for it because if you look at their skin, their bones, their structure, their overall temperament, that's what they were made for. We've completely changed that and made, pit bulls into the nanny dog, which they're not. It's a big lie people tell. And we've made the herding dogs into the true Sentry dogs. And, why they did that, I don't know. I mean, I think herding dogs are a much more, for me, enjoyable dog to train. I like the connection with a herding dog. I like the way their ability to work at long distances. But a true protection dog should never, ever, ever be working at a long distance, right? A protection like a sport dog or a personal protection dog should never leave you to protect you. If you think about a bodyguard, if your bodyguard is chasing the guy down the street to protect you, somebody else is going to come put a knife or a bullet in your back. So that's where Sentry dogs were really, they would just stay there. They weren't really bred or trained to chase things down. They were bred to take things out when they showed up. Right. But the new thing is because it looks cool, Malinois, they run, they chase the guy. Look at the long bite. Right. Look at the go outs that we do in IGP, like you're doing a 100-yard send away and then telling your dog to lie down. It's an absolutely ludicrous, crazy thing. It looks damn good. I mean, it's really fun to watch, but it's kind of a useless thing for a dog to do. So I think we kind of designed things to be more optical in a lot of ways than functional. And I think that's the exact reason why the dogs look different today. And Bart Bellin said something really interesting. He said, we certainly breed dogs to bite harder, but not to out better. And if you think when people are breeding dogs, well, all they're looking for is a beast of a biter. Man, that dog's got a grip. That dog's got this. You never hear them say, God, that dog has a great grip and a solid out. You never hear that when you talk to a breeder of a Malinois, German Shepherd, Rottweiler, whatever. So what happens is the harder the dog ends up biting, what do? We just have to always keep turning up the pressure to get the dog to out. Unless you teach the dog, and there's a lot of good trainers who do this now, they're teaching the dog out at a very early age, and they're teaching it, out, rebite, out, rebite, out, rebite. So the dog isn't really punished in the out, which when you start doing that with a young dog, now the dog's going to be very hesitant or reluctant to bite. But the optics that we're looking at, whether it's like looks-wise or sport-wise, look at a Malinois doing a long bite on the field compared to a German Shepherd. I mean, the Malinois is probably at least 40%, 30 to 40% faster going downfield, which leads to more cervical and spinal injuries on the dog.
Yeah.
It was not designed to be a sport for the Malinois. IGP was designed to be a sport for German Shepherds because they weren't coming down the field that fast.
That's true. I noticed, I interviewed a guy, and he was currently breeding, he was breeding XL pit bulls and Turkish Kangos. And
together?
Yeah. You can't make this shit up. and he said a term that resonated with me, and I had to look up what that meant because he was always talking about it. He kept saying hybrid vigor. That was everything.
Hybrid vigor.
So what hybrid vigor is, from my understanding, is what you just said, what people are doing with Malleys and Dutches. the breeding the two most dominant different breeds,
Mhm.
and they putting them together, and out of the one or two of the whole litter, one's going to be superior. But
Mhm.
with that superiority of that particular pup, there's going to be some issues, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some aggression issues, and I think you said it best. And I asked you, true with serious aggression issues, can true aggression be fixed on a dog?
No.
Explain why.
No. No. Well, because first of all, it's a truly genetic trait. True aggression. Learned aggression is something different, right? True aggression is a dog generally that has a screw loose because we've co-evolved with dogs for thousands of years. Putting aggression onto a dog is something that is in the sport world, obviously something that's bred for. So a dog has a good a defensive aggression, right? That we want that. We want a dog to be able to stand up to us and be able to back us down. Now, the spark is there, but it's kindled into a fire through good training, right? We keep teaching look, if you have a young puppy that has a little bit of it and you kind of squash it or you kind of don't harness it right, it's going to be there, but it's not going to come out. But if you have a dog that doesn't know how to turn that off and you can't manage that, it's super, super dangerous. And that's what you're dealing with a lot of these dogs, like pit bulls, like Corsos, like Malinois, like German Shepherds, like Rottweilers, any dog that has that propensity towards dominance, it's there. But if it's unseated, if it's unchecked, then you've just got it's like a serial murder on your hands.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think a lot of Malinois, because they're most of the time, I'm not going to say all because
Mhm.
there's no such thing as all and everything,
I agree.
but a lot of times, or more often than none, people who are breeders of the Malinois, they're breeding for that genetic trait. They're breeding for that aggression. They're breeding for
Mhm.
that drive. So they're not going to breed a mediocre Mally to a high drive Mally because that's the purpose of them having a Malinois is to be able to work and keep that motor going where now all of them have similarities in attitudes and temperaments in regards to aggression or prey drive. Is that why the Malleys are on the list of on your list of dogs with aggression issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it. And I think that's what I was saying. What Bart said is, we just keep breeding dogs to bite harder and harder. And what happens? It's human nature. So in human nature, we see if we can get a dog to go from 0 to 100 in 6 or 7 seconds, we want to get a car that's going to do it in 5 seconds, and we want to get a car that's going to do it in 3 seconds. So we get a dog that has this monster bite. Well, we want to make the monster bite a double monster bite, right? We want this dog to be and most people who train dogs and even people who compete, I mean, I compete as a hobby.
Yeah,
I train sport dogs. It's a complete hobby of mine. And I took a year off to do it with this dog. I really enjoy it. I have no ambitions to go to a regional, national, or world championship. I enjoy the training more than the competition. I hate competition. I like training. I love connecting with my dog. But most people who get these dogs, they want that monster dog, but they, one, don't have the patience to train that dog. They don't have the knowledge to train that dog. They don't have the time to train that dog. And really importantly, how many really good helpers are there who can handle that dog? So you're going to train 15 minutes 2 times a week to do your protection because in reality, that's all you should be doing, right? You could do obedience 5, 6, 7 days a week. You can do tracking 5, 6, 7 days a
yeah,
week.
yeah,
Protection, you don't need to do it that much. It's either there in the dog or it's not. Everything in protection, and I've been a fan of spite sports for 20 plus years. I love, love, love them. Everything about protection especially in IGP is about obedience.
yes,
There's what, 3 bites, there's the escape bite, the back transport bite, and the long bite. Those are your 3 bites, but everything else is about the clean out, the control before the bite, the execution of the bite, the control back to the handler. I mean, everything is about that. And look at other sports, Mondio, French ring, PSA, all the amount of control the dog needs to withstand before they get to bite. But people go, they see the bite and they go, that's what it's about. But a good trainer will tell you that's not what it's about. It's about the control leading up to it and the clean out and all that. But that's not what we're showing on Instagram.
you know what? That's interesting because it with PSA, I've noticed a lot of distractions, especially when you get to level 2 and level 3. You get the decoys throwing plastic balls and all kind of stuff would even make me react
Right.
as a handler, right? I'm
Yeah.
just saying. And for a dog to understand that I'm going to move when my owner says move or when he signals, that means the dog has complete clarity on what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then that leads me to my another question then. And I'm a little bit biased because you did Shitzen when it was called Shitzen.
I
did
started right at
Shitzen.
IPO. I started right at IPO, but yeah, right
Okay,
on that. On that
I
time.
did it at IPO. Shout out to
Okay.
Wolfgang. Wolfgang Radar helped me in my one competition.
Uh-huh.
He didn't tell me about the written test part.
Mm.
He bullshitted me on that one. So I had
That's
to
the
rethink
BH
that.
though, right? That's the BH. You got to get that before you get your one.
Yeah, you have to take people keep thinking I'm lying. You got to take an actual written test and before you can even get on the field.
Yeah,
So,
that's for your BH. Yep. That's important.
Correct.
I like
for
it.
The BH, yes. Which sport do you think is more realistic or more beneficial for the dog? Because I asked Has at Canine Shield, Shield Canine, and Has said IGP because it opens the dog up. He can be able to express himself more. But which sport do you think is better for the dog that you love doing with your dog?
I mean, I like all the sports. In my opinion, here's how I break it down. I think the dog, as far as in Schutzen or an IGP, they call it now, I think the dog is mostly, it's a dance. It's a specific routine. It doesn't change. It never, ever changes. In Mondio, it changes in everything. And there's a lot of environmental conditions, which I think is similar in Belgian ring. I think the ring sports are more fun for the dog. I think the dog is allowed to be freer in the ring sports. The obedience isn't judged as strictly, as the criteria is not as strong. I think the bites are more fun for the dog because there's stuff going on. Overall, I think Mondio is probably one of the most fun dog sports for the dog. But I like IGP just because I'm old school. I'm German, so I like the whole history behind it. But as far as fun for the dog, like even when I did obedience with Goofy, with who I took to Mondio Ring OBJ3 level at Robert Wademan's field back in the days of OJ Knighton, that was a super fun sport. I really thought it was all the different environments that you get to do with the dog, and it's really good for the dog because here you're going to see a dog like, okay, the retrieve in Schutzen is always that same dumbbell. It's the one dumbbell over the jump and over the wall, and it's the 3 dumbbell when you're at the 3 on the grass. In Mondio, when we did our Mondio 2 or 3, we threw a head, like a dummy head. It was a Halloween theme, and it was like a plastic head that was attached to a shoe, and we threw it, and he picked it up, and he flung around to get it. The shoe whacked him in the head, and Goofy was not he wasn't he was a little nervy, and when he did it, he was like, whoa. But I could give him a second man. I go, come on, bring it here, and boom, he brought it over. But that's realistic, right? I'm not going to throw a dumbbell for my dog to retrieve it. Like my dog now, I go, hey, where's my shoe? And he'll bring it to me. And I go, where's the other one? And you go get it and bring that one. More realistic to the dog. But IGP is going to judge it on how fast does he go out? Does he go out and come back equal speed? How does he hold the dumbbell? Does he chew the dumbbell? Does he chatter? Does he out it cleanly? It's real for an A-type personality like you and me, because we're Virgos. We like that. Like I like training that. Okay, I want that sit to be perfect in the front. In other sports, it's not that important. It's not judged as much. AKC is the worst. AKC, it's like they're literally like pretty much taking out a micrometer to see if the dog is straight in front of you.
That's crazy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy because the few AKC events that I've been a part of, I digress on that one. I mean, but that to me is I love to watch good dog protection sports stuff. But I do like duck diving. I do like luring. I mean, I love seeing a dog do what they're designed to do. So we got to the point.
You want to digress though. What were you going to say about AKC?
Well, I mean, it's to me, it's like with AKC,
It's
It's so
stifling.
much, so many different rules and restrictions,
Yeah.
and then the dog has to be AKC registered, which a lot of clubs now, like even Schützen Club of America, if you don't join with an actual breed club, then in the scorebook your dog will be listed as mixed, which is
A
not.
mutt. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But it's just AKC. A lot of their stuff is, I think it's just like other clubs. It's politics involved too.
Oh yeah, big time. But the other thing I don't like about AKC, and I put my dog through Goofy all the way through utility. What I think is bad about AKC for certain dogs, okay, like a Malinois, and I did it with a Malinois. The ring is 40 by 50 feet. That's not enough room for a dog to express themselves. Now, if you have a little Cavalier King Charles, a little Cocker Spaniel, or a
Yeah.
little dog like that, it's a great thing. But yeah, you get a border collie. I see border collies who, a friend of mine, a few friends of mine who have gone to top levels with border collies. I don't think they look happy, And one of the top AKC competitors in the country said to me, she goes, you know what? If a dog had a choice, they would do agility way before they would do obedience. And that's why I started doing agility with my dog. My wife is going to the national championships in 2 weeks. She's an amazing competitor in agility. And she does it 99.999% purely positive. And the results she gets with her dog, a Labrador, is spectacular. It's a fun sport. It's something the dog wants to do. If you let him go, I let my dog go on the agility field. He's going over jumps, through tunnels, over the wall. He's doing all that on his own. Not because there's a ball over there or a toy over there or a collar forcing him to do it, but he wants to do it. Now you just got to put it on cue and contain it. That's a much more fun sport. AKC obedience, I think, is really stifling for the dog personally.
I like the one event I do like. I like the luring, but I do like the fast cat. The fast cat.
Oh
I
yeah,
love.
fast cat. Yeah.
Yeah. I did that recently, and
Uh-huh.
and for me, I think the fast cat. They didn't tell me, but luckily I had somebody to help me, because somebody has to release the dog, and
Mhm.
then somebody has to be at the other end to make sure the dog to catch the dog, as far as get the dog's attention.
Okay.
But typically, they're supposed to be chasing that white rag
Right.
that's on some kind of motorized bike or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out right the first time, but the second time I think he caught wind of it, because my boy has a lot of prey drive, so
Uh-huh.
it was easier. But he was worried about me at the other end. He couldn't hear me because it was a long distance.
Oh wow. Okay.
He couldn't hear you. But
So is fast cat like the lure coursing?
it is, but it's a straight line.
Oh, I get. So
A straight
luring
line.
is in a circle, right? It comes or it
Yeah,
has a pattern. So the fast cat is the exact same thing, but just a straight line.
straight line.
Oh,
And
that's
whoever
cool.
does it the fastest.
Okay.
Um, and you can't cross the line when you got your dog at the line right here in the
Uh-huh.
front. You can't go beyond that line.
Okay.
And if the dog goes beyond that line, they'll let you compete and complete the whole thing,
You get no
but
score.
you won't get a score. You'll be
Oh,
disqualified.
okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So we talk a lot about the working dogs and how to build a better dog or a better puppy with early training. But let's talk about, I think a lot of dog trainers and people who are dog enthusiasts, they should be doing some kind of community service with dog settings, like the shelters. And I remember you was talking in the beginning that you started doing work at the shelters, and I noticed you said something about the play group.
Mhm.
Can you explain that? And are you still doing the play group?
So back in, it was a long time ago, probably 10, 12 years ago or so, my friend Louis Dado was running the LA Animal Services, the West LA shelter. And then we were friends for years and years and years. And he was one of the original Schutzen guys in the country with Dave Reaver. So you can tell how long back he goes. So the city was getting pressure to do play groups because the play groups are going to help dogs and all this stuff. So there's two sides to that story. I'll get into that. And he said to me, he goes, I'd really like to see you do the play groups because, like we could do it together. And I said, I would do it if we do it together, but I'm not going to do it without you. And this is a guy who could read dogs by walking by a kennel, and he knew that dog, a true dog man, just knew dogs. And so he said, put up an RFP, request for proposal, with the city. I filled out, I gave him a proposal. Mine got accepted, and And we went in and we did playgroups. So what we would do is the idea of a playgroup for a dog in a shelter environment is not going to do anything for adoptions. It's purely enrichment. So it makes their time in the shelter less crappy, right?
Right.
It's kind of like in prison, we want to put, exercise equipment. We want to put libraries. We want to give prisoners access so that while they're in jail, they don't deteriorate their minds, so that when they get out, they have a good chance of a good life. Same idea with the playgroup. We don't want the dog deteriorating in a kennel for 24 hours a day. We want to get them out moving. We want to get them around other dogs and stuff like that. So we did the playgroups. We started it at every single shelter. There's 5 different shelters, and we did it there. We ran playgroups with. We had a huge yard in West LA. I think one time we had like 17 or 20 pit bulls out running around, and we managed those groups with an iron fist. And when you have Eric Shearer on, talk to him, because he used to come with me and he worked with me at Bound Angels doing it. And we had incredible success. In fact, we were the only people who could say that we had 0 bites that ever drew blood on people or dogs in all the years that we did it. Lou passed away a few years back, and I went back and I kept doing the Bound Angels University, where I was teaching behavior training, behavior assessments and stuff like that for shelter dogs. But I didn't do the playgroups anymore because the city brought in another group, which is a really good organization called Dogs Playing for Life, and they run the playgroups now. But I was the person who brought them to the shelters many years ago. I forget how many years ago it was now.
Well, now when you explain to me, so when you do the playgroups, do they go by like the size of the dog or the breed of the dog?
I don't go by breed. Like for me, I usually ran them in sizes. So I would do dogs under 30 pounds and over 30 pounds. I pretty much broke it down like that. Now, other people will break it down more. I ran intact dogs. I ran neuter dogs. I ran pit bulls, shepherds. I ran everybody together. But again, the way I did it, and it's no secret. I mean, I've got a course online about it, but I've also got tons of free videos. The secret to setting up a play group, in my opinion, is you start with 3 dogs in the yard. You've got to have 3 dogs. 3 dogs is already a pack. You start with 2, you bring a third one in, 2 dogs are going to pick on the third dog constantly. I've run hundreds of play groups successfully. Every single one was done the exact same way. I go through the shelter, I run the kennels, and I find 3 stable dogs, the most stable dogs in the shelter. Those are going to be my first 3 dogs. They all come out on a leash. I use a Schutzen soft stick, a Mondial Ring clatter stick. I use an air horn and a slip lead. That's all I use. There's no tools. There's no water bottles. There's no nothing. The dogs would get corrections via either a soft stick or clatter stick or an air horn, something to startle them and get them back. Once I could drop those leashes, those 3 dogs would run in the yard, and I watched them. I always, I would never do 3 females. I would never do 3 males. I always mix the sex. The most stable play group is always going to happen with 1 solid female. The female runs the group. Females are the best friend to any other dog, because a stable male will never pick on a female, never. And she can put him in his place over and over. And that was my secret. That's it. Get a stable female, put 2 males in with her in the beginning. If they get along, bring a third dog in. They're going to manage it. 1 dog is never going to pick on 3. It's the old flooding principle. You get an aggressive dog, put him in a group with 5 other dogs. He's not going to be aggressive because he knows 5 against 1, 5 wins. And so we were able to build those groups up to, like I said, 15, 17, 20 dogs at a time. Eric was there. Eric shot it on video for me many, many times. Lots of proof that we did that, and we did it extremely successfully.
I think that's a wonderful thing. So a lot of dogs is going to the shelter that shouldn't even be in the shelter because it was with the wrong owner. What do you? I would say my experience with this one. I remember when I told you when we talked about OJ. Shout out to OJ. Rest in peace.
God bless OJ.
Yeah, and when I was doing group classes with OJ, he would say, "Hey, if you go to a dog park after you leave here, don't come back."
Amen. He's right.
Right. So what is your views on dog parks?
I don't like them. What I don't like about dog parks is not the dogs, it's the people, right? Like dogs are naturally inclined to play with each other. Totally natural. Now, that being said, people put bad habits on dogs. People have a tight leash on a dog, you're going to have a fight. People are not paying attention to their dogs. The dog's going to do something, you're going to have a fight. I'll tell you, my dogs, if I'm training my dog in the park and my dog's off leash, another dog runs up to my dog's not going to do anything. But I don't like other dogs running up on my dog. I don't like other dogs running up on me. You know, I think dog parks are a breeding ground for disease and bad behavior because they just get away with it. People don't correct dogs. You know, I mean, the reason I could put 17, 20 pit bulls in a yard is because I corrected every single dog that came in. Every dog knew the rules coming in. You put them in a you put them in a park and you don't know what dog you're getting. The guy could have just got the dog out of the shelter. The dog could be dog aggressive. Well, you know, what does he got to lose? Nothing. What do I have to lose? I spend a lot of money on my dog and I spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours training my dog like you. So it's for lazy people for the most part. You know, it's not a social hour. You know, your dog doesn't need to socialize with other dogs. Your dog needs to be in a social environment, be neutral, not be running up on dogs and trying to play with them, mount them, or tackle them. And then they start throwing balls and toys in there. Now you got resource issues. So every time people say, "Oh, we're going to open a dog park, would you get behind it?" I'm like, "No, I'm against it."
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because I equate this to my previous experience in law enforcement. Um, it's almost like when I used to drop off guys to San Quentin. Right? I used to go to San Quentin every week, and we would take them from the county. They got sentenced to the state, so we go to San Quentin, or whether it's Folsom, New Folsom, Old Folsom, it doesn't matter. But some of these guys who've never been to prison, they're mild-mannered guys, right? Depending on the crime. And then they get on the yard in general population with a bunch of crazy dudes. Four guards on the yard, and you got 200 guys on the field. Who's really controlling the yard? I'm just letting you know. You got 5 guards down there, but it's 200 guys out in GP at any given time. Like who's really controlling it? Not the guard. And so all of a sudden, this inmate who was pretty much a mild-mannered guy had some sense of responsibility or some sense of home training. He gets there, and now everybody else is fighting. Guess what? I'm going to fight too. So it's the same mentality. You know, the dog forgets what he learned at home, where he says, "I'm going to forget for this short period of time while I'm on a dog field at a dog park, watching 10 dogs chase one ball." When I'm used to me chasing the ball by myself.
Yep, 100%. But you know what's a shame too? Think about this. Think how many people really enjoy training the dogs, right? How many people would love to do obedience or agility or the fast catch stuff? Why, if the city is going to make a park, why don't they make a park where people can go train their dogs? And you can say, "Hey, we're taking our dogs in there. We're going to do some obedience. We're going to do, protection, or we can do whatever we want." People can lease out the field, rent it, whatever, like soccer fields. You get to put your name on a list. You get to go use that field for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You get to take a turn and you get to go out there. You have your dog off leash or whatever, and you're practicing stuff. And it wouldn't be that much money to put a couple of, jumps in there or something. I think it'd be a great idea, but I think it appeals to the lowest common denominator, the people who are going to be lazy about it, right? Not the people who want to do better with their dog, but the people who just want, they go to, I get it. I'm not criticizing people. They go to work 8 hours a day. They want to run their dog. But the danger to that is the dog's been sitting around in the house all day. Now you're going to take it and run it around. It's going to tear an ACL. It's going to have some soft tissue injury. They don't stretch their dogs out. If I'm laying around in my bed all day and then somebody says, "Okay, let's go run around, the street 6 times," I'm going to tear something too.
What's weird is that a lot of these keyboard warriors and gigabyte gangsters, I get a lot of fucking heat, man, when I show the video of my dog running on a wooden slat treadmill.
Oh, me too.
Not motorized, not electric.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my dog controls the speed. And it's it's cruel, it's inhumane. I said, listen, this is the safest environment that my dog has. He won't be challenged for the treadmill. He won't be challenged for no balls. He run
Yep.
as fast as he wants. Nobody's chasing him, and he's not chasing nobody else.
Yeah.
This is a controlled workout environment, and they're still thinking that mentality. And most of these people are not even dog owners.
Nope.
They say, "Oh, I'm training them to fight." No, my dog is pretty. What are they doing this? I don't
Right.
want my dog ears maned. I mean, he's a
Right.
Doberman.
Right.
No.
But they say they don't get that because I got it and I had the slap mill and I've got an electric mill. They say, why don't you just walk your dog? I go, I already did. Like, do you realize
Not enough.
that? Yeah, it's not enough. Like, you don't have a working dog and it's none of your business, one. And the fact that I'm spending thousands of dollars on a dog and thousands of dollars on food and health and thousands of dollars on fitness equipment and training, it proves that I love my dog and I am more invested in my dog than you are. But you're right. I like the Gigabyte Gangsters. I never heard of that one before, but the Keyboard Warriors. Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
over the place. And there's a really good book I was listening to on tape, and it says it's about happiness. I'm really into like trying to be happy. And the guy says you can have 100 comments on your video or your post and one negative one, and which one are you going to respond to? Right? We're like that, right? We're problem solvers. We want to, but I started saying to myself, one of the things that was in this book, and it said, everything is as it should be. And that's really powerful, right? Like if you believe in God, and which I do, and you have this belief system, then you go, okay, you know what? That's the way it is. For me to be unhappy about the way it is, the way other people are doing things, is just, it's senseless. It's the definition of insanity. I can only change the way I respond to it. So let them go. I mean, I get attacked all the time online, all the time.
Yeah.
But I have an opinion.
At least we got something. We got something in common on that one, big time.
Right.
So I want to before we close out, I want people to know what type of services do you offer, because I want to share your website as well.
Mhm.
And here we go. Let me look here. So tell me briefly, what do you offer on your website?
So the website is there's two focuses to the website. First of all, so much of my stuff is available for free on YouTube, which is a great resource for people. Now on my site, there's two components. One is the monthly membership, which people can go in for less than $1 a day, 29 bucks a month. They can have access to 240 different lessons. Plus, they have access to, it's over 80 hours of instruction. That's all on my site. And there's everything from basic obedience to, issues like aggression or e-collar work, prong collar work, leash walking, problem solving, trick dog stuff, every single thing you can possibly imagine. So, and it has a community, people can join together. A lot of people give advice. They've been members of my site for 5+ years, 10 years, and they're going to say, okay, here, let me help you out. So there's always somebody who's going to answer your questions for you. The second part of the site, which I think is really good as well, is separate courses. There's 3 courses available. The one flagship course is what's called shelter dog training. And that's something that I filmed over 10 years of working in the shelters. That's that one right there. And what you're doing, and that was what I did with Bound Angels University in the shelters, whether it was the play groups or the behavior stuff. And it gives you 150 plus lessons. It's all shot at a shelter with shelter dogs, where when you open the kennel door, you don't know what you're going to get. When you train a pet dog, somebody's going to tell you, oh yeah, this dog has an issue with this and this. You open a shelter dog kennel, you don't know what you're getting. So that is a really dynamite program for anybody who works with dogs, not necessarily a pet dog owner, but a dog trainer, a kennel attendants, people who run daycare centers or anything like that. And the other one, there's 2 little courses. One is a crate course, and one is a course that I shot with my puppy that's called The First 30 Days with My Puppy. And it's like a puppy diary, a puppy journal, that one right there. And what this is, I've never seen anybody do this. And so many people say to me, can't you just come stay at my house when I get my puppy for a couple of weeks? And people have offered me a lot of money to do it, by the way. But I had a GoPro camera.
Offer you to stay at the house?
Yeah. I mean, I used to have really high-end clients when I lived up in Malibu. And they said, oh, P, whatever you want, just stay for 2 weeks. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But this course, I thought, well, what if I could just take a camera and just show what I do for the first 30 days with the dog. Well, that's what I did. This is not professionally shot. It's not whatever. It's 30 days of, like, you'll see there's me the first day getting the puppy, taking the puppy to Home Depot, taking the puppy to the mall, getting the puppy around 5 other dogs. That was Dwayne, our Labrador, Jimmy, our older Labrador, Maya, our German Shepherd, and Goofy, my other Malinois. So 4 solid dogs and the puppy in one house at one time. Everything I did from day one all the way through, and that's a really good course when people get puppies. It's not really a training course per se, but it's simple to understand because it walks you through it. You can watch one day, and the next day you do that with your dog. Then watch the second day, the next day you do that with your dog. And the crate course is just I mean, how many people ask you questions about crate training?
Oh my
This is
God.
a 1 hour mini course. It just explains it all out. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how to crate train your dog or puppy. Um, simple explanations. You know, dog training is really easy. I'm always bewildered that people actually hire dog trainers, because I think if you just had a lot of common sense and patience, I think you could really do it yourself.
So it's a lot of wealth of information. And speaking of crate training, and I just not off a little tangent here. There was a book that I bought. It says how to housebreak your dog in 7 days. Literally, you can't break the dog in housebreak in 7 days, but
Right.
it gives you the steps. And part of that is involves a crate. So
Right.
I'm glad you got this up here because people think it's okay to let the dog run around
Mm.
and poop everywhere, and you go back and pick them up and everything, and pick up and clean, and there's no consistency with that.
Yeah. Freedom is earned, right?
Yeah,
And when you just give it to a dog just out for no reason, you have nothing else to give them. It's like if you just put a bowl of food down for a puppy and you don't make them work for it. Dogs are naturally they have solid work ethics, not like a lot of people, right? People will just take stuff for free and expect more for free. A dog likes working for stuff. So when we can use hand feeding and luring and shaping for the dog early on, it gives the dog a solid work ethic. And the people will say, well, if you do that, then you always need to have a treat for the dog. Well, then same thing goes by if you say, put them on an e-collar, prong collar, right? Or a leash. Everything we do, we shape behaviors with dogs and we create relationships with dogs. And the number one thing is the relationship with the dog.
right.
And that's why dogs do stuff for us, because they have a relationship with us, and they love us and we love them. And some people say, well, we don't love dogs. And I've had people on the podcast who say, well, I don't really love dogs. And I'm like, you might be on the wrong podcast if you don't love dogs, because I genuinely love dogs. They're like, kids to me. But I'm not afraid to, like my mom. My mom gave me a swat on the butt when I did something wrong. It's old school. I don't believe in hitting dogs, but I do believe in structure and corrections and helping them learn what they need to learn to have a happy life and never end up in a shelter.
That is a good point. Corrections, not welling on a dog. I made a little
Right.
post about that. But I want to say, man, thanks for taking the time out to do this. We got to do it again, Rob. We actually should do
Anytime.
it in person. You're not that far away.
I would love that. And
Uh,
this has been one of the nicest conversations I've had. I watched some of your stuff and I'm like, man, this is going to be a really great chat. I admire you for who you are. You're an amazing, I mean, just your questions. What I like, nothing was written down. You and I just went
Nothing.
and kind of just did this because we're both dog lovers. And this is one of my most enjoyable interviews I've done. So thank you to you.
We got to do it again. And
You tell me.
oh yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, you want to say anything to the people before we go?
No, I'm just, I hope more and more people train their dogs, seek out good training. It doesn't have to be my site. There's a lot of great trainers online now. There's a lot of bad trainers online, but there's a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of good people to work with. If you get a dog, especially if you get a working dog, if you get a Malinois, a Dobie, a Rottie, a Dutch Shepherd, or anything like that, give the dog something that will fulfill his or her life, something they
Yeah.
were meant to do, whether it's agility or protection work or sport work or anything or hunting work for a Labrador. give them the fulfillment, and they'll give you a great life. But don't expect, to put a round peg in a square hole by getting a sport dog and thinking they're just going to sit around at home and play Frisbee on Saturdays. That's a kiss of death. And that's why so many dogs are being killed in shelters, killed, not dying. They're being killed in shelters. And we got to fix this problem in shelters and get people to understand. It's not about adopting a dog from a shelter. That's the last thing I want to say in closing. People always say, adopt, don't shop, don't buy a dog from a breeder. No, buy a dog from a good breeder like yourself. Because you know what? First of all, you're going to interview me, and if it doesn't work out, you're going to take that dog back. You're going to make sure you find a home for that dog. But just to get a dog out of the shelter is not going to do that. And we need to prevent dogs from going into the shelter. That's how we solve the problem. We keep dogs from getting into the shelter by supporting good breeders, by supporting good training. That's critical. It's not about we'll never adopt our way out of the shelter. Every time you adopt 100 dogs out of the shelter, 150 more go in. Think of those numbers.
Yeah.
We need to keep them getting in.
Any of the dogs, any other animals? I got 2 cats. I adopted those.
What kind of cats you got? Oh, shelter, like adopted cats?
Yeah, one was a black kitten. They was going to put her down. We adopted her. Her name is Greta. We call her Gigi. And then my wife has a cat that she rescued that she found as a kitten on the street. She's a I forgot the name of it, but it's one of those rare breed cats.
Like Abyssinian?
No, it was
Mancoon?
was not I wish it was a Mancoon, and I wish it was
cool.
a Savannah cat, but I forgot the name of it. But
okay,
I found out. I remember one time.
Text me.
Okay. Hey, people, I want to always say, first of all, don't forget to if you want to follow Robert, you can go to Robert CABRAL. Just Google it. You'll see him on Facebook, Instagram. You may be on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I don't really do the TikTok that much, but there is my account. Yeah, that's a legit account.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
YouTube.
That's where the bread and butter of the learning comes from. You guys check them out. And I always tell you guys, and as always, this is imperative. I always say it at the end of every podcast. Stay resilient, but be responsible. Until next time.